The morning sun spilled over the suburban Texas town of Brookfield, casting warm golden light across the courthouse lawn. The smell of freshly cut grass mingled with the faint aroma of coffee from a nearby food cart, and the low murmur of conversation floated through the crowd. It was a typical weekday in a small town, yet a sense of anticipation hung in the air. People had gathered to observe a minor trial, curious about the courtroom drama that often drew more attention than it deserved. Among the crowd, Lily, a 3-year-old with bouncy curls and eyes the color of melted chocolate, wandered a few feet ahead of her parents. Clutching her stuffed bunny, she toddled carefully, her small sneakers squeaking lightly on the sidewalk. Her curiosity was insatiable. Every leaf that trembled in the breeze, every fluttering piece of paper, every whisper of movement caught her attention. To Lily, the courthouse wasn't just a building. It was a playground full of wonders waiting to be explored. "Stay close, sweetie," her mother called, a mix of warmth and mild exasperation in her voice. But Lily barely registered the words. Her attention was entirely on the world in front of her. A small fountain sparkled nearby, catching the sunlight just right, and in its mist she glimpsed something she had never seen so closely before: a police dog. Rex was a disciplined German shepherd with a shiny black and tan coat that glistened in the sun. His posture was straight, ears alert, eyes scanning the crowd, a perfect picture of calm authority. He moved beside his handler, Officer Daniels, a tall man in his 40s with a face lined by years of service and a calm, reassuring demeanor. He guided Rex carefully through the courtyard, aware of the children playing nearby but confident in his dog's training. Rex sniffed the air, nostrils flaring slightly, tail flicking gently. He was alert but not aggressive. To any observer, Rex was a gentle giant in full control. Lily froze for a moment, captivated. The sight of Rex made her tiny heart pound with excitement. She had seen dogs before, sure, but never one this big, this majestic, this clearly in charge. Her fingers clutched her bunny tighter. Without thinking, she pointed at Rex and squealed softly, "Doggy." Her voice was tiny but carried over the soft chatter of the crowd. Officer Daniels noticed her immediately. He slowed his pace, keeping a hand close to Rex's harness. He knew children could be unpredictable around animals, and while Rex was well-trained, instinct made every handler vigilant. "Easy, Rex," he murmured, though the dog remained calm. Rex's training kicked in automatically. He didn't lunge, didn't bark. He simply sat tall and still, alert but composed. From across the lawn, people began to notice Lily. Parents glanced nervously at their own children, some whispering about how cute she was, others worrying about safety. Whispers floated through the small crowd. "Is she going to touch him? That's a police dog. Watch out, little one." Lily's mother hurried forward, her voice soft yet slightly anxious. "Lily, honey, don't get too close." But Lily was lost in fascination. Her eyes sparkled with wonder as Rex turned his head slightly, acknowledging her presence. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The murmur of the crowd faded into the background. Lily's giggles broke the silence as she shuffled a little closer, pointing at Rex and making soft baby talk noises. Her innocence contrasted sharply with the tension that had begun to creep through the adults around her. Officer Daniels remained alert but relaxed. He had trained Rex for years, and he trusted his dog completely. Still, the scene was unusual. A tiny human, fearless in her curiosity, standing mere feet from a large, powerful K9. Then it happened. Lily, full of excitement, uttered 2 words. Good boy, simple, innocent, but enough to make several adults stop in their tracks. Those words carried an energy beyond their size. They were filled with praise, affection, and childlike honesty. The timing, however, was almost cinematic. The sun catching her hair in a halo, Rex standing stoically beside his handler, the small crowd watching silently. The murmurs spread through the crowd like wildfire. Some adults smiled, thinking it was charming. Others stiffened, unsure if the words carried a deeper meaning. Officer Daniels raised an eyebrow, tense but quietly amused. Rex's tail gave a gentle wag. No one could have predicted the chain of events those 2 words would trigger. Meanwhile, Lily clutched her bunny closer and bounced on her heels, entirely oblivious to the growing tension. Her giggles were infectious, and for a fleeting moment the world felt lighter. People around her exchanged looks, a mix of admiration and concern. "What a brave little girl," one mother whispered. "Careful, she might get into trouble," another muttered. In those brief seconds, the innocence of childhood collided with the cautious calculations of adults, and the stage was set for a story no one would soon forget. As Officer Daniels began to guide Rex past the fountain, Lily followed, pointing and giggling, her voice rising in excitement. Parents called out warnings, but Lily was lost in the thrill of discovery. Her tiny hands waved, her feet shuffled quickly, and her eyes never left Rex. It was a dance of curiosity and caution, innocence and experience. Little did anyone know those two words, "good boy," would echo far beyond the courthouse lawn. They would later become a focal point in a courtroom, the subject of national attention, and a catalyst for a story that blended humor, tension, and heart. But at this moment, all that mattered was a little girl, a patient police dog, and the boundless wonder of a child discovering something extraordinary for the first time. And so, under the warm Texas sun, on a courthouse lawn buzzing with ordinary activity, a tiny voice had the power to captivate, charm, and soon shock the world. Lily, blissfully unaware, continued her exploration, unaware that she had just set the stage for an unforgettable moment. The crowd on the courthouse lawn had barely absorbed the sight of Lily pointing at Rex when her tiny voice rang out again. "Good boy." It was innocent, playful praise meant for the dog, yet the timing and setting made every adult pause. Whispers rippled through the gathering, half charmed, half anxious. Officer Daniels froze, hand near Rex's harness, not because the dog would act aggressively, but because human misinterpretation could be just as unpredictable. He knew children were innocent, but he also knew that in tense situations, even a simple gesture could trigger panic. Lily's mother, Claire, rushed forward, a nervous smile on her face. "Honey, remember what we talked about," she said gently, reaching for her daughter. But Lily was too enraptured to heed her mother's warning. She giggled and waved her tiny hand again at Rex, clinging to her stuffed bunny in the other. The dog, sensing the absence of any threat, remained calm, tilting his head slightly as if acknowledging the compliment. Rex was a trained K9, the embodiment of patience and discipline, yet in that brief moment, his calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the rising tension around him. The murmurs spread quickly. People nudged one another, whispering, "Did she just? Is that allowed? That's a police dog." Everyone interpreted her words differently, some chuckling at the adorable moment, others worrying that she might have said something more serious. The dichotomy of perception created a fragile tension, invisible but tangible, hanging in the warm morning air. The courthouse lawn had become a stage, and Lily, completely unaware, was the center of attention. Officer Daniels shifted slightly, giving a subtle nod to keep Rex steady. He had trained for situations like this, though never involving a toddler's innocent praise. His calm presence reassured the dog, yet he couldn't control the reactions of the crowd. One by one, parents leaned in toward their own children, a mix of curiosity and concern written on their faces. Claire crouched beside Lily, whispering, "Sweetie, don't point so far away," but Lily's giggles drowned out the caution. She clapped her hands, bouncing on her heels, eyes locked on Rex as if the dog could understand her joy. From a few steps away, a group of reporters had gathered, drawn by the unusual scene. They quietly adjusted cameras, capturing the toddler pointing, laughing, and speaking those fateful words. It was a moment of pure innocence, yet the lens through which adults observed it imbued the event with unintended gravity. Every gesture, every syllable, was now subject to interpretation. The delicate balance between childhood curiosity and adult responsibility had been triggered, and no one knew how far it would spiral. Nearby, other children watched with wide eyes, some mimicking Lily's gestures, pointing at Rex or calling out in imitation. A ripple of excitement spread among the younger observers who saw only play, not protocol. Claire tried to redirect Lily gently, but the child was fully absorbed, enchanted by the sight of the towering, majestic German shepherd. Rex, sensing the lack of threat, remained composed. His tail flicked occasionally, ears tilting, eyes soft yet attentive, a model of restraint. To anyone paying attention, the dog's behavior was reassuring, yet the adults around were beginning to perceive danger where there was none. Then, in a moment that seemed to stretch time, a local police sergeant approached Officer Daniels. "Is everything under control?" he asked quietly, eyeing Lily and Rex. Officer Daniels gave a subtle smile, placing a hand lightly on Rex's back. "Yes, she's harmless. He's calm," he replied. Yet the sergeant's gaze lingered on Lily's words, uncertain if the child's praise could be misinterpreted. In a small town, incidents like this could easily gain unintended significance, and Officer Daniels knew that what seemed trivial could quickly escalate. The crowd began to shift, the whispers growing louder. Some individuals speculated about what Lily had said, embellishing details in hushed tones. "I heard she told the dog to attack," one claimed jokingly, unaware of the effect their words carried. Another corrected, "No, she just said something sweet." Yet the ambiguity, however minor, created tension. Adults leaned closer to their children, trying to manage both curiosity and caution. The small, sunny courthouse lawn had become a stage for confusion, a microcosm of how innocence and misunderstanding could collide. Lily, entirely oblivious to the commotion, skipped a few steps closer to Rex, extending her tiny hand. "Good boy," she repeated, louder this time. Her voice carried clearly across the crowd, an innocent chant of admiration for the dog. The world seemed to slow for a heartbeat. Parents glanced nervously at each other. Officer Daniels adjusted Rex's harness slightly, guiding him gently to ensure distance was maintained. Even though Rex remained perfectly calm, the power of perception, how adults interpreted a toddler's words, was now at play, threatening to escalate the scene in ways no one could predict. From the back of the lawn, a local videographer captured the entire interaction. His footage would later be replayed countless times, each replay magnifying the subtle tension, each frame scrutinized for signs of danger or impropriety. The crowd's fascination grew, a mixture of amusement, curiosity, and unease. Lily, wrapped in her world of wonder, giggled at the dog's soft whine, hugging her bunny tightly. She had no understanding of the storm brewing around her, no knowledge of how two simple words could ripple outward, gaining weight far beyond her intent. Claire finally scooped Lily into her arms, holding her close. "All right, sweetheart, let's give Rex some space," she said gently. Lily squirmed slightly, protesting, but her laughter was infectious, cutting through the tension like sunlight. Officer Daniels knelt, whispering to Rex, "Good boy, stay calm." Rex responded with a gentle nuzzle of Daniel's hand, a reminder that his loyalty and training were unwavering. The toddler's words, though innocent, had already left a mark. The adults around her could feel it, a sense of suspense, a hint of impending drama they couldn't yet define. And then it happened. Someone in the crowd whispered loudly, "Did she just say attack?" Though untrue, the statement carried through the murmurs, gaining momentum. Whispers transformed into concern. Parents glanced around nervously. Officers exchanged glances. A minor, innocent moment had now gained the potential for serious misunderstanding. Officer Daniels, sensing the rising tension, guided Rex carefully toward the exit of the courtyard, keeping Lily and her mother within sight. The dog remained calm, obedient, but the perception of danger began to outweigh reality. By the time the small crowd began dispersing, the seed of rumor had already been planted. Onlookers murmured about what Lily had said, their imaginations filling in gaps, exaggerating danger where there was none. The videographer packed up, unaware that his footage would later become critical evidence, replayed in courtrooms and news outlets, dissected frame by frame. In the midst of all this, Lily yawned and cuddled her bunny, entirely unaware that her simple praise, "Good boy," would soon become the focal point of a story about innocence, perception, and the surprising power of words. The sun climbed higher, casting shadows across the courthouse lawn. Parents whispered to one another, children laughed and played, and Officer Daniels ensured Rex remained calm and collected. To Lily, the world was magical, filled with dogs, giggles, and curiosity. To the adults, the same world was suddenly charged with tension, rumor, and anticipation. And at that moment, no one could have predicted that two simple words from a 3-year-old would soon echo through a courtroom, make national headlines, and challenge the assumptions of an entire community. By late morning, the courthouse itself seemed charged with an unusual energy. Inside the grand, oak-paneled courtroom, sunlight poured through tall windows, illuminating rows of polished benches and the gleaming hardwood floor. A minor case was underway, yet the outside incident with Lily and Rex had already reached whispers among spectators. Court staff exchanged curious glances, and reporters, some previously waiting for mundane testimony, had been drawn in by a growing buzz about a toddler, a police dog, and two simple words. Judge Harper, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes, glanced over her notes as the prosecutor began presenting evidence in the minor trial. But then a subtle comment about the presence of Rex in a previous police demonstration caught her attention. Her brow furrowed. "Wait," she murmured. "Wasn't there an incident outside involving a child?" The courtroom shifted, tension suddenly thickening as officers and attorneys exchanged uneasy looks. Claire, Lily's mother, held her daughter close, gently brushing back her curls. Lily, oblivious, played quietly with her bunny, humming softly under her breath. To the child, the courthouse was just another room filled with adults speaking in serious tones. She had no idea that her innocent words, "good boy," had begun to ripple outward, interpreted differently by various adults and now threatening to become a matter of public scrutiny. Officer Daniels sat with Rex quietly at his side, watching the reactions of the courtroom. He knew exactly what had happened outside and was confident in Rex's calm demeanor. Yet in the formal environment of a courtroom, perception mattered more than reality. Every spectator, every attorney, every officer interpreted the story differently. Some wondered whether a toddler's words could constitute a threat. Others saw it as nothing more than an adorable, harmless moment. The ambiguity itself was dangerous, capable of inflaming nerves unnecessarily. The murmurs from the audience grew louder. One woman whispered, "Didn't she point at the dog and say something?" Another nodded quickly. "Yes, I think she told him to," she hesitated, lowering her voice, but the words had already carried far enough. A ripple of tension spread through the spectators, blending anxiety and curiosity. Reporter cameras were poised, ready to capture anything that might confirm or deny the story. What had been a sunny, playful moment outside was now morphing into a charged, unpredictable narrative. The prosecutor, noticing the whispers, addressed the court. "Your Honor, there is video evidence of a toddler interacting with the police dog during a demonstration outside the courthouse lawn. It seems minor, but given the dog's status as a trained K-9 unit, the events might be relevant for context in understanding the dog's behavior in controlled settings." His words, carefully chosen, were precise, but the courtroom collectively leaned forward. The tension was palpable. Everyone seemed to sense that this was no ordinary trial anymore. It was becoming the story of the day. Claire tightened her grip on Lily, whispering softly to her, "Sweetheart, we're just here to watch, okay?" Lily nodded vaguely, eyes wide with curiosity, her tiny fingers clutching her bunny. She had no idea how her words had begun to dominate adult conversations and speculation. Her giggle from a moment ago was now replaced with wide-eyed attention as she looked up at the towering figures in robes and uniforms. She sensed the seriousness, but could not comprehend the magnitude. Judge Harper cleared her throat, motioning for the prosecutor to clarify. "Counselor, you're suggesting that a toddler's comment might influence the interpretation of the dog's behavior?" she asked, her tone measured but firm. The courtroom quieted entirely, every rustle of paper or cough amplified in the sudden stillness. Officer Daniels exhaled slowly, maintaining a calm posture while Rex remained stoically at his side, ears twitching lightly. Every heartbeat seemed louder than usual, every whispered speculation a potential spark. Then the video footage was called to the stand. Courtroom staff wheeled in a screen, and the clip from the courthouse lawn played in muted silence. Lily's tiny figure appeared on the screen, pointing at Rex, giggling and uttering her words. Good boy. Innocent, playful, utterly harmless. Yet in that silent room, the power of perception again showed its potency. Some spectators frowned, seeing only a child near a large police dog. Others smiled at her innocence. Adults' interpretations were already diverging wildly. Officer Daniels watched closely, explaining quietly to Judge Harper when asked. Your Honor, Rex is highly trained. He was calm throughout the encounter. The child was never in danger and the dog did not react aggressively. This footage confirms what we already know. No threat existed. It was a moment of innocent interaction. His voice was firm but measured, carrying the authority of experience. Yet even with that reassurance, whispers persisted. People were naturally drawn to drama, and a 3-year-old's words were suddenly enough to stir curiosity, tension, and anxiety simultaneously. The murmurs spread further when a spectator commented, but what exactly did she say? That single question, simple and innocent in intent, reignited speculation. Attorneys leaned forward, reporters adjusted lenses, and the room seemed to hold its collective breath. Claire felt her heart pound, wishing she could shield her child from the weight of adult assumptions. Lily, meanwhile, adjusted her bunny and hummed softly, still unaware of the storm her words had begun to create. A juror, seated quietly, whispered to her neighbor, "Could a child actually influence a case like this?" The neighbor shrugged. "I don't know, but it's amazing how quickly something tiny can escalate." Outside, news crews waited for updates, their cameras pointing at courthouse entrances, hungry for a statement. Internally, the courtroom's atmosphere had shifted completely. What had begun as a simple trial had now morphed into a micro-drama of perception, interpretation, and the intersection of innocence and authority. Judge Harper, sensing the rising tension, decided to clarify before speculation escalated further. "Let it be noted on the record," she said, her voice cutting through the whispers, "that any interactions between civilians and K-9 units are to be interpreted in context. We will review the video carefully and consider expert testimony as necessary." The statement was procedural, yet it did little to calm the human curiosity in the room. Everyone leaned forward, eager to see how this would unfold. Officer Daniels adjusted Rex's harness slightly, kneeling to reassure the dog with a gentle pat. Rex responded with a small, approving whine, acknowledging his handler while maintaining absolute composure. Claire held Lily close, whispering, "It's okay, sweetie. Nothing bad is happening." Lily tilted her head, soft brown eyes looking up at her mother, and responded with a small giggle, the sound cutting through tension like sunlight piercing clouds. Her innocence contrasted sharply with the weight of adult interpretation surrounding her. By midday, the video footage had been replayed multiple times, each frame scrutinized for context. Spectators debated whether Lily's words had meaning beyond praise. Some reporters, sensing the human interest story, scribbled notes and whispered excitedly. Social media updates had already begun to appear on phones, hinting at the incident. Toddler points at police dog. What did she say? Harmless or dangerous? The power of perception had transformed a playground moment into a social narrative. Despite the whispers, the courtroom drama remained contained. Officer Daniels, calm and professional, ensured Rex remained obedient. Claire tried to soothe Lily, who now clutched her bunny and leaned into her mother's arms. The juxtaposition of a calm toddler, a disciplined police dog, and the tension of adult assumptions created an almost cinematic scene. Innocence amidst chaos, wonder amidst scrutiny, playfulness amidst judgment. As the session continued, Judge Harper requested clarification from the police on the training, behavior, and protocols surrounding K-9 units in public spaces. Officer Daniels answered with clarity and authority, reiterating that Rex had been calm, obedient, and unthreatening. Yet every replay of the video seemed to create more fascination than reassurance. The courtroom had become a theater where Lily's innocence, Rex's discipline, and adult interpretation intertwined in a complex dance of perception. By the end of the morning, the room had grown heavy with anticipation. Every whisper, glance, and speculation hinted at the story's potential to spread beyond Brookfield. Lily, unaware of her influence, yawned softly and cuddled her bunny, while Rex rested loyally beside Officer Daniels. The stage was set. Two words, innocent in intent, had become a fulcrum of tension, curiosity, and suspense, drawing the attention of not only a small Texas courtroom but soon the wider public. By the afternoon, the small courthouse of Brookfield had become more than a place of law. It had become a stage for stories, speculation, and quiet panic. What began as a minor trial had evolved into a town-wide mystery: a 3-year-old girl, a disciplined police dog, and 2 simple words: good boy. The innocuous moment outside had already traveled through whispered conversations, turning into rumors that stretched farther than anyone could have anticipated. News of the incident had reached local radio stations by mid-morning. A few reporters, intrigued by the unusual nature of the story, had posted early social media updates. Toddler points at police dog outside courthouse. What happened next will surprise you. The headline was vague yet captivating. Parents in nearby neighborhoods received texts from friends who had seen the snippet online. Messages buzzed back and forth, half concerned, half amused. Did she threaten the dog? Or was she just being cute? This is the weirdest courthouse story I've ever heard. Claire, Lily's mother, felt a growing knot in her stomach. She tried to shield her daughter from the attention, keeping her close as they exited the courthouse. Lily, blissfully unaware, held her stuffed bunny and pointed again at Rex, still calmly obedient at Officer Daniels' side. "Good boy," she exclaimed again, giggling as if she were playing in her backyard instead of being at the center of a social storm. Claire whispered, "Lily, honey, let's keep our hands to ourselves." But the child wriggled happily, smiling at the dog. The small gathering outside the courthouse had turned chaotic in whispers alone. Spectators recounted the story multiple times, each retelling adding subtle embellishments. "She told him to attack," one man claimed jokingly, though a hush quickly fell over him when he realized he might have alarmed someone. "No, she was just praising him," someone else countered, but the correction barely carried over the growing excitement. Rumor, once started, has a way of snowballing. In Brookfield, the story of the toddler and the police dog spread like wildfire. By early afternoon, social media had amplified the incident far beyond Brookfield. Short videos captured by spectators were posted online, often without context. Within minutes, local news outlets began reporting the story, emphasizing the potential danger of a toddler near a trained K-9 unit. Headlines varied: "Toddler points at police dog, harmless or hazard," or "Brookfield courthouse mystery, child, dog, and 2 words." Some posts framed it humorously, others with alarm. Comments poured in. People speculated wildly about what the girl had said, what it might mean, and whether Rex had been in danger. Officer Daniels remained vigilant, aware of the growing buzz. He watched as strangers recorded clips on their phones, capturing Lily's innocent gestures and words. He had trained Rex for years, and he knew the dog would not act aggressively, no matter the circumstances. Still, the power of perception was unpredictable. Even the most disciplined dog could not control human imagination, and in this case, imagination had already run wild. Detective Ramirez, a new addition to the Brookfield Police Department, arrived in the late afternoon. He had heard about the incident and was tasked with reviewing the situation to ensure public safety and clarify facts. Sitting in his car outside the courthouse, Ramirez watched the footage uploaded online, frame by frame. He noted Lily's small hands pointing, her giggles, and her voice. "Good boy." There was no threat, no malice, nothing that could be interpreted as dangerous, yet he understood the town's unease. Misinterpretation could escalate quickly. Meanwhile, inside the police station, Officer Daniels fielded questions from reporters calling about the incident. He maintained professionalism, calmly explaining that Rex was a trained K-9, that Lily had never been in danger, and that the video clearly showed an innocent interaction. Yet despite his reassurance, headlines continued to spin out of control. Social media amplified every rumor, and people unfamiliar with the situation began drawing their own conclusions. Within hours, what was a minor courthouse moment had become a story of national interest. Claire grew increasingly anxious. She tried to shield Lily from attention while explaining to neighbors that her daughter had done nothing wrong. "She's just a little girl," Claire said firmly. "Rex is trained. Nothing happened." Yet adults struggled to separate reality from speculation. Even in casual conversations, the story was retold with added tension, as if the toddler had intentionally caused the stir. Claire sighed, clutching Lily tightly. Her little girl, so full of life and innocence, had become the focal point of rumor, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Lily, unaware of the growing storm, continued to point at Rex and giggle. "Good boy," she exclaimed again, hopping slightly on her feet. Rex, ever patient, nudged her lightly with his nose, acknowledging her praise without a hint of aggression. Nearby children mimicked her, pointing and squealing, adding to the innocent chaos. Observers found themselves caught between delight and anxiety. The juxtaposition was striking. A scene of pure childhood joy viewed through the lens of adult responsibility and heightened concern. By late afternoon, Detective Ramirez convened a small team to review the footage in detail. They interviewed witnesses, including those who had recorded video. Each retelling was scrutinized carefully to ensure nothing had been misinterpreted. Statements were collected. Parents, courthouse staff, and onlookers described what they had seen. Every detail mattered. Ramirez knew that even though no threat existed, the story's viral nature could influence public perception. And perception often mattered as much as reality in incidents involving law enforcement and children. As the investigation continued, social media buzz intensified. Videos of Lily pointing at Rex were shared with captions like "the toddler who shocked the courthouse," or "watch what this 3-year-old said to a police dog." Comments ranged from humor to concern, with some users claiming, incorrectly, that the child had ordered the dog to do something. Misinformation spread faster than clarification. It became clear that what had started as an innocent moment had transformed into a story with its own momentum, shaped by human curiosity and the viral tendencies of the digital age. Claire and Officer Daniels, despite their reassurances, began to feel the pressure mounting. The innocence of a toddler's words was being overshadowed by misinterpretation, speculation, and rumor. The local police department decided to issue a statement emphasizing Rex's calm and disciplined behavior, reassuring the public that no threat had existed and that Lily had been entirely safe. Even so, the story continued to gain traction, illustrating how quickly an innocent moment could spiral beyond anyone's control. By evening, Brookfield had become a town caught between amusement, curiosity, and anxiety. Children recounted the story to friends, adults debated what had happened, and reporters prepared follow-up coverage. Claire tucked Lily into bed that night, her daughter yawning and hugging her bunny, entirely unaware that she had dominated headlines and inspired rumors across social media. "Mommy, Rex is a good boy," Lily said softly, drifting to sleep. Claire whispered a reassuring reply, heart heavy with relief yet tense from the whirlwind of public attention. Outside, Rex rested quietly at Officer Daniels' feet, calm, disciplined, and loyal. The dog had done nothing but be his usual self, yet the world had elevated the incident into a story far beyond his understanding, or Lily's. 2 words uttered innocently had caused ripples that spread across the courthouse, the town, and soon the nation. What began as a simple interaction had become a study in perception, rumor, and the human tendency to embellish, exaggerate, and misinterpret events. And so, as night fell over Brookfield, the quiet of the evening belied the storm that had begun hours earlier. Social media updates continued, local news reports analyzed the footage, and townspeople whispered about what the little girl had said. Claire slept lightly, listening to Lily's soft breathing beside her. Officer Daniels reviewed notes about Rex's behavior, preparing for any inquiries that might arise. Somewhere across digital platforms, the story continued to grow, awaiting the next twist that would push the events even further into public consciousness. In the innocence of Lily's laughter, in the loyalty of Rex's calm demeanor, and in the care of her mother and Officer Daniels, a small town had witnessed a moment of wonder and confusion. Two words had set off a chain reaction, but amidst the rumors and speculation, truth and patience quietly waited to be revealed. The stage was set for further clarification, investigation, and reflection, a story that was only beginning to unfold. The next morning, the Brookfield Police Department buzzed with an unusual energy. Detective Ramirez had convened a small investigative team to review the incident involving Lily, the 3-year-old girl, and Rex, the trained police dog. While at first glance the case seemed trivial, the viral nature of the story and the swirling rumors had made it a matter of both local and potential national interest. Ramirez knew the world was watching, even if only indirectly, and he intended to leave no detail unexplored. Officer Daniels arrived early with Rex, who sat obediently by the car as Daniels gathered notes. The dog's disciplined posture reflected years of training, but Daniels could sense Ramirez's tension. "This is ridiculous," Daniels muttered quietly. "She's 3. Nothing happened." Ramirez nodded but remained focused, knowing that appearances could easily overshadow reality. In investigations, perception mattered as much as fact. The team began by interviewing witnesses who had been present at the courthouse lawn the previous day. Parents, courthouse staff, and casual spectators were asked to recount what they had seen. Statements varied wildly. Some described a sweet, harmless interaction, while others added details that weren't there, exaggerating Lily's actions or the dog's size and posture. Ramirez noted each inconsistency carefully. "We need to separate fact from embellishment," he said. "Every word matters." Claire, Lily's mother, was next. Sitting in a quiet office, she cradled her daughter's stuffed bunny and recounted the events. "She was just playing," Claire insisted. "She pointed, she giggled, she said, 'Good boy.' That's it, nothing else." Ramirez listened intently, taking detailed notes. Lily, perched on her mother's lap, hummed softly, oblivious to the seriousness of the questions. Detective Ramirez smiled faintly at the child. Her innocence made the entire situation all the more poignant. Next, Officer Daniels provided his account. He described Rex's training regimen, the dog's calm response to children, and the precise moment Lily had pointed at him. "Rex is trained to stay calm under any circumstance," Daniels explained. "The child never came within range that could have triggered any reaction. She praised him. That's all. No threat, no provocation." Ramirez nodded, appreciating the clarity. The statements painted a consistent picture, but Ramirez knew the real challenge was contextualizing it for a public already enamored with the drama. The team then reviewed multiple video recordings captured by bystanders. Footage from different angles confirmed Lily's innocence. She pointed, giggled, and repeated "good boy" with excitement, all while keeping a safe distance. Rex remained composed, sitting attentively by Officer Daniels, tail flicking gently, ears alert but relaxed. The contrast between Lily's exuberance and the dog's professionalism was striking, a picture of innocence and discipline that contradicted the rumors spreading online. Ramirez carefully analyzed the crowd's reactions, noting the subtle tension in adult observers. Some whispered anxiously, unsure how to interpret a child's interaction with a trained K9. Others smiled, captivated by the innocence on display. He realized that the incident was as much about human perception as it was about the actual event. The threat existed only in the minds of those who misinterpreted a toddler's enthusiasm, amplified by the viral reach of social media. After hours of review, Ramirez convened a debrief with his team. "We have clear evidence," he began, pointing to still frames from the footage. "No threat, no provocation. The child's words are innocent. Rex remained calm. This is a case of misperception amplified by rumor and social media." The team nodded. They understood that while the facts were straightforward, public perception was harder to control. They began drafting a statement to clarify the situation for local media and to reassure the community. Meanwhile, Claire worried about the impact the incident might have on Lily. Though the child remained blissfully unaware, she sensed her mother's tension. "Mommy, Rex is good," Lily said softly, hugging her bunny. Claire smiled, stroking her daughter's curls. "Yes, baby, he's a very good boy," she replied, trying to shield her from adult concerns. For Lily, it was a game. For adults, it had become a study in rumor, perception, and consequence. As the day progressed, the department received calls from curious townspeople and reporters seeking clarification. Ramirez, calm and professional, reiterated the facts. Lily's actions were entirely innocent. Rex had behaved impeccably, and no one had been in danger. Despite the reassurances, some local social media accounts continued to sensationalize the story. Misunderstandings and speculation persisted, demonstrating how even simple, harmless events could take on outsized significance. In the afternoon, Ramirez met with legal advisors to discuss potential implications for the courthouse trial. While the incident outside had no bearing on the minor case inside, attorneys and the judge requested that the footage be documented and included in records for context. "It's important to show what actually happened," Ramirez explained. "The child's words, the dog's behavior, and the witness statements all corroborate the same truth. There was no threat." The police department also scheduled interviews with additional witnesses, including courthouse staff and the children who had mimicked Lily's actions. These interviews revealed consistent patterns. The children had been curious and playful, adults had misinterpreted the interaction, and no physical danger had existed. Ramirez carefully cataloged each statement, creating a thorough record to counter the growing spread of misinformation online. By evening, Ramirez drafted a formal report, emphasizing several key points: Lily's innocence, Rex's disciplined behavior, the lack of threat, and the role of perception in escalating public concern. He prepared a short statement for the media, designed to clarify facts without sensationalizing the incident further. Officer Daniels reviewed the report, satisfied that it accurately represented the truth, highlighting both Lily's playful curiosity and Rex's impeccable training. As the team wrapped up for the day, Claire and Lily returned home. Lily, still clutching her bunny, recounted her morning with simple joy. "Rex is so big, Mommy. He's a good boy," she said, eyes wide. Claire smiled, relieved that despite the attention, her daughter remained blissfully innocent, unaware of the storm her words had created. The house was calm, warm, and ordinary, an oasis after a day dominated by investigation, speculation, and rumor. That night, Ramirez reviewed the footage one final time. He marveled at the juxtaposition of innocence and perception, noting how a toddler's simple words could spark a chain of events far larger than anyone might anticipate. It was a lesson in human behavior, social amplification, and the unpredictable nature of storytelling. Two words, "good boy," had created both curiosity and tension, but they had also provided an opportunity to educate, clarify, and ultimately showcase the value of truth. Rex rested at Officer Daniels, feet calm, loyal, and patient. Lily slept in her crib, stuffed bunny pressed against her cheek. Outside, the town of Brookfield buzzed with rumors, social media posts, and quiet speculation. Within hours, the narrative would continue to evolve, as misinterpretation, curiosity, and human imagination intertwined. Yet through the investigation, clear documentation, and careful observation, the facts remained. Lily was innocent, Rex had been impeccably trained, and the world had witnessed the power of perception magnified by innocence. The investigation had begun, but the story was far from over. Ramirez knew that the next step would involve formal documentation for the courthouse, review by legal authorities, and public clarification. In his mind, however, he already understood the truth. Nothing had gone wrong. What the world saw as drama was actually a child's curiosity, a dog's discipline, and a community learning just how easily rumor could take flight. And somewhere in that truth, there was a lesson about patience, observation, and the innocence of childhood. The next morning, the Brookfield courthouse seemed quieter than usual. A sense of anticipation lingered in the polished hallways, though it was now different. Less tension, more curiosity. The minor trial was ready to continue, but the incident involving Lily and Rex had already cast a shadow over the proceedings. Judge Harper, aware of the previous day's rumors, had asked for the inclusion of the footage in the record, not to sensationalize it, but to clarify the facts. This was the day the truth would emerge. Inside the courtroom, the gallery was fuller than usual. Parents, reporters, courthouse staff, and curious townspeople had gathered, drawn by the viral story of the 3-year-old girl and the police dog. Many whispered quietly, speculating about what they were about to see, while a few smiled knowingly, hoping that the moment of tension would finally be resolved. Claire held Lily's hand, both comforting and protective, as her daughter clutched her stuffed bunny and hummed softly, blissfully unaware of the scrutiny. Officer Daniels and Rex entered quietly, walking with calm precision. The dog's movements were deliberate, controlled, and disciplined, exuding both power and trustworthiness. Rex sat beside Daniels, perfectly poised as if aware of the significance of the day. For the adults in the courtroom, the juxtaposition was striking. A tiny child, innocent and unassuming, and a large, trained police dog, calm and obedient, standing as a living demonstration of trust and discipline. Judge Harper called the courtroom to order. "We will now review the video footage and witness statements regarding the incident on the courthouse lawn yesterday," she announced. Her voice carried authority, and the murmurs in the audience subsided immediately. "It is crucial that all facts are presented clearly and without embellishment." The judge's seriousness underscored the importance of the moment. What had been a viral story would now be assessed in a formal, factual context. The video was played first. Frame by frame, spectators watched Lily point at Rex, giggle, and utter the words, "Good boy." Innocent, clear, and unthreatening. Every gesture she made was playful, her eyes wide with wonder, her tiny hands clutching her bunny. Rex remained still, attentive but calm, tilting his head occasionally, acknowledging the child without reacting aggressively. The audience held its collective breath, watching the scene unfold with a mixture of curiosity and relief. Officer Daniels stepped forward when called to testify. "Your Honor, Rex is a fully trained K-9 unit," he explained. "He has undergone years of obedience and public interaction training. Yesterday, he remained calm and controlled despite the child approaching and speaking. At no point was there a threat. The child's words, 'good boy,' were pure praise. There was no danger to the child, the public, or the dog." His voice carried conviction, and the courtroom seemed to relax slightly, absorbing the weight of his testimony. Next, Detective Ramirez summarized the investigation. He presented the statements collected from witnesses, the analysis of multiple video recordings, and his observations of both the child and Rex. Every witness confirms the child was safe, her actions playful and innocent. Rex's behavior remained disciplined and calm. The viral stories circulating online exaggerated or misinterpreted the interaction. "There is no evidence of danger or threat," Ramirez concluded, placing emphasis on the thoroughness of the investigation. Claire watched anxiously as the judge reviewed the footage and listened to the testimony. Her heart raced, but relief began to build as the courtroom absorbed the facts. Lily, too small to comprehend the gravity, tugged at her mother's hand and whispered, "Rex is a good boy." The courtroom smiled quietly, charmed by her innocence. It was a reminder that, despite the swirling rumors, the truth remained simple and clear. A child had praised a dog and nothing more. Judge Harper nodded thoughtfully. "The record shows that the child's actions were entirely innocent, the dog's behavior disciplined and appropriate, and there was no threat or danger to anyone present," she stated firmly. The words seemed to settle over the courtroom like a soothing wave. Spectators exchanged relieved glances, whispers of concern fading into quiet chuckles and murmurs of admiration for both Lily and Rex. The tension that had gripped the town was beginning to dissolve. The prosecutor spoke briefly to reinforce the clarity of the record. It is important that public perception aligns with the facts. The incident outside the courthouse was misinterpreted by some witnesses and amplified through social media. The evidence, however, confirms the child's innocence and the dog's exemplary training. His tone was measured, professional, and deliberate. The courtroom absorbed the statement, acknowledging that speculation could never override documented truth. Outside, news crews broadcast updates live, sharing footage of the courtroom and expert testimony confirming the events. Social media posts, previously filled with speculation and exaggerated claims, began to pivot toward factual reporting. Headlines shifted from sensationalism to clarity. Toddler innocent in courthouse dog incident, or police dog calm as child praises him, rumors debunked. The story, once viral for all the wrong reasons, began to reflect the true narrative, a moment of childlike wonder and professional discipline. Claire exhaled, feeling the tension leave her shoulders for the first time in over 48 hours. She hugged Lily tightly, whispering, "See, everything's fine, sweetie." Lily hugged back, unaware of the significance of the reassurance. Officer Daniels leaned down, giving Rex a gentle pat. The dog's calm, steady presence had been a pillar of certainty throughout the entire ordeal. In the courtroom, the combined innocence of the child and the reliability of the dog had proven far more powerful than rumors or misinterpretations. The judge concluded with a statement for the record. This incident highlights the importance of context, perspective, and careful observation. Innocence and training, when respected and understood, prevent misunderstanding. This record should serve as a reminder of the value of patience and clarity. The courtroom collectively nodded, absorbing the lesson. 2 words uttered with no malice had sparked chaos, and yet, through careful investigation and professional testimony, order and truth had been restored. The courtroom spectators began to leave, some still whispering but now in admiration rather than concern. Parents chuckled at Lily's repeated praises of Rex, others marveled at the calm demeanor of the dog, and many silently reflected on the fragility of perception in a world dominated by rumor. The story had reached its climax, and the truth had finally emerged. Nothing harmful had occurred, and the incident was nothing more than a heartwarming interaction between a child and a well-trained K9. Even as the courtroom emptied, Ramirez and Officer Daniels reviewed their notes, ensuring every detail was accounted for. The formal record would prevent further misinterpretation, and public statements would clarify the facts for the community. Lily, still clutching her bunny, waved at Rex one last time before leaving. The dog responded with a gentle nuzzle, a silent acknowledgement of the innocence that had sparked the entire story. By evening, the town of Brookfield had largely absorbed the clarification. The initial frenzy of speculation had given way to relief and admiration. The narrative shifted from alarm to understanding, from rumor to reality. People reflected on the story not with fear, but with appreciation for the innocence of a 3-year-old and the disciplined professionalism of a police dog. It was a lesson in patience, observation, and the importance of verifying facts before jumping to conclusions. Claire tucked Lily into bed that night, the child yawning and holding her stuffed bunny tightly. "Good night, sweetie," Claire whispered, thinking back on the whirlwind events of the past 2 days. Lily murmured softly, "Rex is a good boy," and drifted into sleep, entirely unaware of how her simple words had captivated an entire community and sparked an investigation. Outside, the world had learned an important lesson about perception, innocence, and the power of small actions. And so, with the truth revealed, peace returned to Brookfield. The courthouse returned to normal, the minor trial continued without further disruption, and the story of Lily and Rex transitioned from viral speculation to a heartwarming reminder of innocence and trust. 2 words, once misunderstood, had ultimately become a symbol of clarity, patience, and the enduring bond between a child and a loyal, trained dog. By the following morning, the town of Brookfield had settled into a cautious calm. The viral spectacle of the previous 2 days, the 3-year-old girl, the police dog, and the infamous good boy, had transitioned from rumor and speculation into reflection and conversation. Cafes and bakeries buzzed with hushed chatter, townspeople sharing their thoughts, laughing at the tension that had gripped the town, and marveling at how a small act of childhood innocence could create such a ripple. Claire walked through Main Street with Lily, holding her daughter's hand as she skipped slightly, clutching her stuffed bunny. Shops were adorned with morning sunlight, casting a warm glow over the familiar streets. Some neighbors waved, their smiles a mixture of recognition and relief. "Lily, you sure made quite the scene yesterday," one neighbor joked, eliciting a soft giggle from Claire, who smiled tiredly in response. Lily, oblivious to the weight of her fame, simply waved back, eyes wide with curiosity at the colorful displays in shop windows. Local schools became a quiet hub of discussion. Teachers recounted the story to students, emphasizing lessons about observation, careful interpretation, and patience. "Sometimes, things aren't what they seem," said Mrs. Thornton, a kindergarten teacher. "A child's actions may appear unusual, or a situation may look alarming at first, but if we pay attention, we often discover the truth is far simpler and far more heartwarming." Children listened, eyes wide, fascinated that someone so young could capture the attention of an entire community. Meanwhile, the Brookfield Police Department noted the change in atmosphere. Officer Daniels and Rex returned to routine patrols, their daily presence a comforting reminder of stability. Residents greeted them warmly, some sharing laughs about the viral incident, others offering thanks for the professionalism and calm demonstrated during the courthouse events. Rex, ever disciplined, responded with gentle tail wags and soft nuzzles, maintaining the quiet dignity that had captivated the town. Detective Ramirez reflected on the broader implications of the incident. He had spent hours reviewing footage, collecting statements and verifying facts, and the entire process had highlighted the interplay between perception, rumor, and social amplification. Ramirez marveled at how quickly a simple interaction, a toddler praising a dog, could escalate when filtered through human curiosity and digital amplification. It was a lesson in both caution and understanding, one that would stay with him long after the headlines faded. Social media posts gradually shifted in tone. Videos of Lily pointing at Rex, once accompanied by sensational captions, were now framed with clarity and context. Comments celebrated her innocence and Rex's training. "Heartwarming moment in Brookfield, child and dog remind us of simplicity and trust." Others reflected on how quickly humans could misinterpret events, using the incident as a teaching point. The digital community, once focused on drama, now embraced the story as a symbol of patience, observation, and childhood wonder. At the courthouse, Judge Harper issued a formal statement to clarify the public record. The incident involving the child in the K-9 unit has been fully investigated. All evidence confirms that the child acted with innocence, and the dog remained calm and obedient at all times. This serves as a reminder that perception is powerful, but facts must always guide our understanding. Her words echoed throughout the town, reinforcing both reassurance and the lesson of careful interpretation. Claire, reflecting on the whirlwind, felt a mixture of relief and awe. Her daughter had remained blissfully unaware, her innocence untouched by the storm of attention. "I can't believe how 2 words caused such chaos," Claire whispered to a friend while watching Lily play in a small park. Lily giggled as she pointed at a passing dog, repeating softly, "Good boy." A small group of children nearby mimicked her, and for a brief moment the world seemed simple again. Laughter, curiosity, and joy unburdened by rumor or speculation. Local media began featuring more in-depth stories, highlighting the town's experience and the lessons learned. Interviews with Claire, Officer Daniels, and Detective Ramirez emphasized the importance of context, observation, and trust. Experts on child development and animal behavior weighed in, reinforcing the idea that the interaction had been entirely safe and appropriate. The story's viral nature became a platform for education rather than alarm, demonstrating how the public could shift from sensationalism to understanding. Community events, planned in the following weeks, began to reflect the lesson learned. The local library hosted story hours featuring children and therapy dogs, inspired by the incident. Brookfield schools invited police officers with K-9 units to conduct demonstrations, teaching children about safety, respect, and the responsibilities of both humans and animals. Parents shared laughter over the original viral footage, emphasizing that what seemed dramatic online was, in reality, a heartwarming lesson in observation and empathy. Claire watched as Lily approached Rex, who sat calmly beside Officer Daniels during a community demonstration. "Good boy, Rex," Lily exclaimed, hugging her bunny. The dog, patient and attentive, responded with a gentle nuzzle, eliciting laughter from nearby children and admiration from adults. For Claire, this moment encapsulated everything: her daughter's innocence, Rex's discipline, and the town's gradual embrace of understanding over rumor. It was a scene that reminded her that while perception could be powerful, truth and patience always had the final say. As the sun set over Brookfield, casting a warm glow across the courthouse lawn where the original incident had occurred, townspeople paused to reflect. They marveled at how quickly rumor could grow, how easily perception could mislead, and how the careful observation of truth could restore calm. The story of Lily and Rex became a quiet legend, shared in conversation, social media posts, and community events, reminding all who heard it of the power of innocence, the importance of patience, and the enduring bond between humans and animals. That night, Claire tucked Lily into bed once again. "Sleep tight, sweetie," she whispered, brushing back her daughter's hair. Lily hugged her bunny, murmuring softly, "Rex is a good boy," before drifting into dreams filled with laughter and adventure. Claire smiled, reflecting on the whirlwind of the past week. Her daughter's innocence had captivated a community, challenged assumptions, and taught everyone around her a lesson in perspective and understanding. Officer Daniels watched Rex settle in the corner of the living room, tail flicking gently, ears twitching attentively. The dog had been central to the story, a symbol of discipline, loyalty, and calm. Together, Lily and Rex had reminded the town that sometimes, even the smallest gestures, 2 words, a pointed finger, a gentle nuzzle, could carry profound meaning. In a world quick to speculate, they were a reminder that truth, patience, and careful observation always mattered most. And so, Brookfield slowly returned to its rhythm. The story of the 3-year-old girl and the police dog persisted, not as a tale of fear or drama, but as a narrative of innocence, clarity, and trust. Conversations in cafes, schools, and homes often returned to the event, now framed with laughter, lessons, and perspective. The community had learned the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, perception and reality, and the enduring power of a child's simple words. As night fell, the courthouse lawn stood quiet once more, bathed in soft moonlight. The place where whispers, curiosity, and speculation had once grown into chaos was now a symbol of reflection and understanding. Lily's laughter, Rex's calm presence, and the guidance of adults like Claire and Officer Daniels had transformed a viral moment into a lasting lesson. The town of Brookfield, forever marked by a toddler's innocent words, had found peace and perspective. The weeks following the courthouse incident were a period of calm reflection for Brookfield. The town had moved beyond the initial storm of rumors and social media buzz, but the story of Lily and Rex continued to resonate. What began as a viral spectacle had transformed into a shared narrative of innocence, trust, and the power of careful observation. For Claire, the experience had been both exhausting and enlightening, a reminder of the fragility of perception and the resilience of truth. Lily remained blissfully unaware of the notoriety she had achieved. Her days were filled with simple joys, playing in the garden, exploring nearby parks, and laughing with friends. Yet every so often she would point at Rex, who accompanied Officer Daniels during his routine patrols, and utter her trademark phrase, "Good boy." The dog responded with gentle nudges or soft tail wags, a ritual that had grown into a quiet, unspoken bond between the toddler and the K-9. Claire watched these interactions, with a mixture of pride and relief. The local media, now framing the story positively, began highlighting lessons learned. Educational programs in schools emphasized the importance of observation, patience, and understanding before judgment. Children learned about police K-9 units, the responsibilities of law enforcement, and the power of nonverbal communication between humans and animals. Brookfield's story had become a template for thoughtful storytelling, showing that even viral moments could carry meaningful lessons when guided by truth and context. Officer Daniels found himself increasingly aware of the town's gratitude. During patrols, residents would greet him warmly, often referencing the incident with smiles. "Rex is still the best-behaved dog in Brookfield," one neighbor said, laughing. Daniels smiled and nodded. The dog, calm and disciplined as ever, remained focused on his work, oblivious to the fame his gentle demeanor had earned. For him, it was simply another day on duty. But for the community, Rex had become a symbol of trust, patience, and professionalism. Detective Ramirez reflected on the events with quiet satisfaction. His careful investigation had clarified the truth, countered misinformation, and preserved the safety and reputation of both child and dog. The experience reinforced his understanding of human nature, how quickly perception could distort reality, and how crucial it was to rely on facts rather than assumptions. Ramirez often shared the story with colleagues, emphasizing the delicate balance between curiosity, observation, and thoughtful action. Claire took comfort in seeing her daughter resume a normal life. Though the courthouse incident had placed Lily at the center of public attention, the child's innocence remained intact. At home, evenings were filled with bedtime stories, gentle giggles, and the soft hum of contentment. Lily's simple words, "good boy," now carried less weight in the outside world, but within the family they became a cherished routine, a reminder of the day their small act of kindness and curiosity had captured hearts and lessons alike. Community initiatives inspired by the incident continued to grow. The local library organized reading and play sessions featuring therapy dogs, allowing children to learn about compassion, safety, and empathy. Schools invited law enforcement officers and K-9 units to demonstrate their training, teaching students respect and understanding for animals and authority figures alike. The courthouse itself began offering public educational tour, emphasizing the importance of civic awareness and the role of law in protecting both people and animals. Lily's bond with Rex deepened over time. On weekends, Claire would take her daughter to visit the police station, where Rex would patiently accompany her through gentle interactions. Lily would hug him, giggle, and repeat her favorite phrase, while Daniels observed with a calm, reassuring presence. It was a partnership that reflected trust, loyalty, and the quiet magic of childhood, a relationship that reminded the town of the simple joys that could exist even amidst chaos and misunderstanding. In social media circles, the story became a lasting example of viral responsibility. Bloggers, educators, and parents referenced the Brookfield incident as a case study in perception versus reality. Videos, once sensationalized, were now presented with context, highlighting the innocence of Lily, the professionalism of Rex, and the importance of critical observation. For the online community, it became a positive story, a reminder that even moments of apparent drama could have lessons embedded in truth and clarity. One sunny afternoon, Claire walked with Lily and Rex along the courthouse lawn where it all began. Children played nearby, pointing and laughing as they mimicked Lily's gestures. Parents chatted quietly, reflecting on the lessons learned from a simple, innocent moment. Claire knelt beside Lily, brushing back her curls. "You've taught a lot of people something important," she whispered. Lily, blinking in the sunlight, giggled softly and said, "Rex is a good boy." The simplicity of the words carried the weight of all they had experienced. Officer Daniels, watching from a short distance, smiled as Rex rested calmly at his feet. The dog had remained an emblem of trust and discipline throughout the ordeal. In that moment, the bond between child and canine was more than playful. It was symbolic. It represented the power of innocence, the reliability of trained guidance, and the lessons that could be drawn from patience and careful observation. Brookfield had witnessed more than a viral moment. It had witnessed a demonstration of enduring values. The courthouse itself became a symbol of reflection. Where whispers and rumors had once filled the hallways, clarity and understanding now prevailed. Visitors often remarked on the story of Lily and Rex, sharing the lessons of perception, patience, and kindness with newcomers. The incident was no longer a source of alarm. It had become a narrative of growth, learning, and the power of innocence to illuminate human character. Even as months passed, Lily's words and gestures continued to charm those around her. At home, in parks, and during community events, she repeated her phrase with unintentional wisdom, reminding adults that sometimes simplicity carried profound meaning. Claire marveled at her daughter's ability to captivate attention without intent, while Officer Daniels observed Rex's calm responses, a silent testament to years of careful training and mutual trust. Together, child and dog had become more than a viral story. They had become a living lesson in perspective. In quiet moments, Claire reflected on the entire journey. The initial incident, the courtroom tension, the viral frenzy, the investigation, and finally, the resolution. What had begun as a simple interaction between a toddler and a dog had grown into a story that touched an entire community, educating and inspiring both young and old. She realized that truth, patience, and careful observation had prevailed over speculation, and that Lily's innocence had remained untarnished throughout. On the anniversary of the courthouse incident, Brookfield hosted a small commemorative event. Children, parents, and local officials gathered on the courthouse lawn, celebrating not only the memory of that day but also the lessons it had imparted. Rex, now older and wiser, sat calmly beside Officer Daniels, while Lily, clutching her bunny, pointed and giggled. "Good boy," the crowd smiled, some laughing, some nodding thoughtfully, all reminded of the power of simplicity, trust, and compassion. As the sun set over Brookfield, casting long shadows across the familiar streets and courthouse lawn, the town collectively reflected on the journey. A toddler's innocent words had sparked curiosity, misunderstanding, and viral attention. But ultimately, clarity, discipline, and patience had guided the narrative to its rightful conclusion. The story of Lily and Rex endured, not as a fleeting sensation, but as a lasting lesson in perception, innocence, and the enduring bonds between humans and animals. That night, Claire tucked Lily into bed one final time, her daughter clutching her bunny and murmuring softly, "Rex is a good boy." Claire kissed her forehead, smiling as she reflected on the journey they had endured together. Outside, Rex rested faithfully at Officer Daniels' feet, loyal and calm, a silent guardian of the innocence that had captivated an entire community. Brookfield had learned that sometimes the smallest gestures, the simplest words could carry the greatest lessons. And so the story concluded. A 3-year-old girl, a disciplined police dog, and 2 words that changed everything. They left behind laughter, reflection, and the quiet knowledge that truth, patience, and understanding always prevail over rumor and fear. In the hearts of Brookfield's residents, the memory endured, a reminder of innocence, trust, and the remarkable bond between a child and a dog, a story that would be shared for generations to come.